Hi, everybody. This is Virginia Milner coming to you for the DeKalb County Library. And I have a new bracelet that I want for us to make. I love spirals, and I recently learned that spirals are for or indicate new beginnings. And I have some friends who are embarking on new adventures, I guess you could call them, in the start of 2026. And it occurs to me that there's a lot of people that may be doing the same thing. It's not just about a new year, it's about what you're going to be doing with this year. So I wanted to bring out the spirals and make a bracelet that kind of encompasses that. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to just take a few large uh, flat beads, not flat, but they're round, but they are kind of like coin beads, coin shaped beads, and some 20 gauge wire, and a couple of jump rings, and we're going to make a bracelet. It's going to be very pretty quick, pretty quick. But I wanted to give you something that you could do kind of on the fly and have a beautiful bracelet to show for it. So what you're going to need is your usual tools, your round nose pliers. The barrels are round all the way around. They start wider at the bottom here near the hilt, and they taper to almost a point. Then you have your square pliers. They're slightly rounded on the outside, but flat, perfectly flat on the inside. Now, when you go to buy this in the store, they will have some of them will have some that have little grips on the inside to be able to grip on the things. You don't want that with when you're working with wire. You don't want that for your jewelry pliers. You want it to be flat, otherwise it can mar or damage your wire. So let's stick with the nice smooth surface on the inside. The third thing that you're going to need is a pair of cutters, and they're wire cutters, so that's exactly what they do. We're going to be using 20 gauge wire, and I'm using 6 millimeter jump rings. You can use whatever size jump rings you like. It just depends on the look that you're going for and how much of a spread that you want in between your links. But I'm using 6 millimeter, and I'm using these beads. Ooh, isn't that gorgeous? So we're going to go ahead and get started and make this very, 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 I believe, simple bracelet. Let's get down here to the mat and get going. Okay, the first thing that we're going to do is cut the wire that we need to make our little spirals. So we're making connecting spirals. And one thing that I've kind of decided to do when at all possible is to go ahead and pre-cut the wire so it kind of takes some of the time. It doesn't hinder the time that we're together doing these projects. So what I have here is 3 inches of 20 gauge wire. That's what I'm going to use to make my connecting spiral. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to start the spiral by sliding down about 1/4 of an inch from the tip of my pliers. So I've got my wire in here right around 1/4 of an inch away from the tip. I'm going to check and make sure that the tip is not sticking out the back of the wire of the pliers. If I can feel it, that means that I need to pull it back a little bit so that it's just nicely enclosed in between the prongs of the pliers. Okay, so I'm going to hold on to the wire. Notice how I kind of like to put one finger on the pliers, rested against the pliers and the wire, and have my thumb on the other side. So I'm completely enclosing the wire. It gives me a little bit more control over it. And then I'm going to start the turn of my wire to start my loop. Then I'm going to open up the pliers without shifting the wire. I'm going to reposition the pliers back, close back down on the wire, give it another turn, and notice that the wire is not moving. It's neither are my fingers. And I'm going to keep doing that until I have a loop. So there's my loop. And then I'm going to continue to make another loop around that first loop. And I want this to be an open spiral. So notice I'm not touching the wires together. They're just beside each other. And somebody asked, how do you keep it from coiling or from pushing on top of the other wires? Just hold it out to the side and turn. Now, once you get to this point where you can't go much further with your pliers because they're going to get in the way of the turn, you're going to switch to your square pliers, and that will help you keep these wires side by side instead of on top of each other. So I'm going to grab my wire with my pliers, and I'm going to continue to turn, still keeping those wires separate and not bumping into each other. And I just want to go around 2 times. So I want 2 turns, and the way I know that I've got my 2 turns is right here at the tip. I can count 1 and 2 wraps with my wire. So where, and squeeze that together a little bit closer. Get a little bit closer. There we go. Yeah. So once I have 2 turns around right here, so here's the tip. There's where I ended my turn. I'm going to stop, and it's going straight out to the side here. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. I'm going to slide it right here. Let me turn it this way. I'm going to slide it right here beside the spiral. Make that a little closer. There we go. So right there beside the spiral. And then I'm going to bring this tail over the top of the half of the pliers that doesn't have anything sticking out. So I'm bringing it over the top towards the spiral. Just bring it over and down like so, and around until it's laying flat against my pliers, just like that. I don't want to keep going. I want it to go straight out to the side. So now this is what I have. That's what I have. So then I'm going to hold on to it with my fingers. I think I'm going to switch this around a little bit more so it's closer. There we go. A little bit closer. Bring that straight out to the side. Like so. So this is what I have so far. So then I'm going to bring this tail around, wrap it around the outside of my spiral. And for that, you just need to use your fingers. So I'm just going to shape it around the side with my fingers. And I'm coming around from the front. If it's easier for you to come around from the back, you can. And for that, you just, instead of bringing it around to the front, you just bring it around and let it settle on the back. But it's entirely up to you which works better. I'm going to just shape that around the side of my spiral. Going. Yeah, there we go. So now this is what I've got. Yay. So now I need to make the loop for the other side that's going to connect on this side. So here's one loop. I need a loop over here. So I just need for this to be about 3/8 of an inch from the tip here, so that when I make my loop, it's on the opposite side of this loop. Now this may be a little bit too much, which is fine because I can cut that down. You never want to cut it too short, because if you do, you have to start all over. So let's start with 1/2 an inch. It depends on how big you make your loops. So I can't tell you exactly how much. It just depends on where you go along your pliers to make your loop. I'm going down here again about 1/4 of an inch from the tip. And again, I'm going to check, make sure that tip's not sticking out. It is. See how that's moving? That means the tip is sticking out. I don't want to be able to feel that. There we go. And let's just make a loop on this side, just like I did on the other side. I can tell that that's way too far over. So how do I fix that? I'm going to cut a little bit of that loop off. Cut that off. Get rid of that I don't need. And I'm going to reshape that loop. So let's go ahead and close that up again. And there it is. There is my spiral connector. Yay. Nice. Let's make another one. Okay, so once again, grab my little 3 inches of wire, slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way from the tip of my pliers, check to make sure that tip isn't sticking out. Put my forefinger on one side of the pliers and my thumb holding onto the wire on the other side. And let's make a loop. Just turn until I have a nice loop and keep checking, keep watching it to make sure that little tip bumps into the rest of the wire, but you don't want to extend beyond that. So there we go. There's my little loop. Let's keep on going and wrap the wire around itself, making sure that the wires don't touch. That's as far as I can go with my round pliers. Oops, I don't want my cutters. Grab the square pliers and give it another wrap. So that's almost correct. Okay, is that it? I think that's it. 1, 2, yes. So I've got 1 and 2. Little bit more, there we go. So I've got my 2 wraps, 1 wrap, 2 wraps, maybe a smidge more over here. And I'm ready to make my loop. So I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, slide them in right beside my spiral. There's my spiral, slide them in right beside my spiral there. And bring this tail over the top and around towards my little spiral and keep going until the wire is flat against both barrels of my plier. I don't want to go any further than that. There we go. I'm gonna make this a little closer. There we go. And then I'm going to shape it around. Sometimes I forget that I'm actually left-handed. It's easier if I switch. Use whatever hand is more comfortable for you. And what I'm doing here is I can shape it around with this hand with the long wire. I can also turn with this hand and get both of them working at the same time to make that nice little shape. And there's my spiral. I'm gonna go ahead and make my loop. Let's see if this is the right length, but I have a feeling it's too long and I will have to cut again, but that's okay. So again, I'm going to slide my wire about 1/4 of an inch down from the tip. I can feel it sticking out. Let's scoot it back away from and there we go. And let's make a loop, just like I did on the other one. And once again, too far over. Grab my cutters, cut that off. just a bit. I'm cutting about half of it off. And let's reclose it. Get over there. Just keep turning until it's closed. Oh, this is a little smaller than the other side. Let's open that up and make it a smidge bigger. That's better. And then just shape this a bit until it suits your purposes. And there's my other link. Yay. So there are my two links that I'm going to use. Well, two of the links that I'm going to use because I'm going to be using more than that. So now I'm going to take my beautiful bead. Ooh, isn't it lovely? I forget what this stone is. I don't think it's African bloodstone. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm going to use this beautiful bead as my focal point of my bracelet. I have three of these. And those of you who get kits will get three coin-shaped beads to use. Mine is about 3/4 of an inch. Some of it, they're between 3/4 of an inch and an inch in size. So they're very sufficient for this bracelet. So what I need to do my link for this is whatever the amount of wire is that I need for this to hold this bead, which is 3/4 of an inch, and I need a 1/2 inch on each side. So for me, that would be 1 1/4 inches. So I've already cut this. And those of you who get like 1 inch beads, you'll need 1 1/2. Or I'm sorry, you'll need two. So you'll need 2 inches because you need a 1/2 inch on each side plus the length of the bead. So there we go. So I have a 1/2 inch here, and I probably need a little less than that because I'm only going down 1/4 of an inch on my tool. So it's probably going to be closer to 3/8 of an inch for me. So I'll end up cutting some off, but that's okay. So, all right, what I'm going to do is bend my wire back right here at the top of my bead, just like that, right there at the top. And then I'm going to make a loop. Again, I'm going to slide my wire down 1/4 of the way down, away from the tip of my pliers. Make sure that that tip is not sticking out the other side of the pliers, and I'm going to make my loop just like I did the other time. But this time, because my wire is covered up with the bead, I have the bead to hold on to. So I have a little bit more support there, which is kind of great. Okay, and let's make my loop. These loops don't have to be that big because we're just going to attach them to another piece of 20 gauge wire or a jump ring. So they don't have to be super huge. So there's my loop on one side. I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. And I want my loops to be going in the same direction. This one's going this way. This one needs to go the same way. So I'm going to bend it back so that I can make my loop going in the same direction. I can see I have way too much wire over here. I've probably got a good 3/4 of an inch, and I only need about 3/8. So I'm going to cut that down. And again, it just depends on how big you want your loops. If you go further back on your pliers than I'm going, you might need a full 1/2 inch, or you might need a full 5/8 of an inch. It just depends on how big you make your loops. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that end off. And I like to cut that down into something so that this little tip doesn't go flying off to parts in those. So I'll cut that down in there. There it is, right there in the bottom where I can get rid of it later. Again, I'm going to Slide my wire down about a quarter of the way from the tip. Make sure that's not sticking out. It is. Scoot back. There we go. And let's make my loop. There we go. Yay. So there's my link. Boop, boop. Ah. So let's go ahead and attach it to the rest of my bracelet that I've already started. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to this, but let me go ahead and put these on so I can show you how to do that first. So what we're going to do is we're going to have these three in the middle on our arm. Then we're going to have these nice little spirals to finish out our chain. So I'm going to open up one of the loops on one side of my bead. I'm just going to twist it open, and I'm going to slide one of the loops of my spiral inside the bead. It doesn't matter which one, it's up to you. They're all going to be linked together soon enough. Then I'm going to twist it closed again. Make sure it's completely closed. Now I'm going to grab a jump ring. And the way to open your jump rings, you get two jump rings. Yeah. The way to open your jump rings properly is to find the little opening. Here's my little opening there. And grab one plier and put it on one side of the opening, another plier and put it on the other side of the opening, and twist. Now, I like to check and make sure that the tips are together. So if they slide back and forth past each other and just barely touch, that's perfect. So let's do the other one. Because I'm using two jump rings, it kind of gives the appearance, it kind of matches the spiral shape. And look, if I have two of these, and it gives me extra security. There we go. Check. If you, I don't know if you can hear the little clicking noise. If you hear the clicking noise as you are turning these open and closed, that means they are close together, which is what you want. So now I'm going to take my open jump ring and slide it inside the other loop on the other side of my my little spiral. Then I'm going to put the other spiral on the same jump ring. So now I have them both on there, and I'm going to close. Ooh, hear that clicking? Good. They're perfectly together. Then I'm going to take the other jump ring, grab that, and I'm going to slide it also on both of my little spirals. So I'm following the same path as this jump ring, but they're separate. So I'm going to slide one through one of the spirals and the other of the spiral and close, just like I did with the first one. Click. Very good. Make sure that's nicely together. There we go. And there's my little link. Great. Now I'm going to add this to the other one. Now what I did, because I didn't want too much space in between my button beads, my coin beads, I did not use a jump ring in the center because I wanted them a little bit closer together, and the jump rings would spread it out more than I wanted. So that was me. If you want to add more jump rings, that's entirely up to you, but that's the way I did it. So now I'm going to add my coin bead to the other spiral that's already on the rest of my bracelet. So again, I'm going to turn that open, slide on my spiral and twist it closed. There we go. There it is. Let's see what it looks like. And now I need to check and make sure it's going to fit. Yes, it is. So now I just need a clasp. And what I can do is I should be able to make a clasp that will hook directly into my spiral or add another jump ring and hook it into the jump ring. It just depends on how much more length you need for your bracelet. But this is it, ladies and gents. So what I'm going to do is I've cut 6 inches of wire and I'm going to make a little hook that kind of has a spiral on it so that it echoes the rest of the bracelet. So what I need to do is measure 2 inches from the one end, 2 inches from one end. Just measure it and bend, nice sharp bend right at that 2-inch mark. And line up both of my wires side by side. Squeeze them nice and tight together, right there at the fold. So I can squeeze it as much as I can with my fingers, but when I can't squeeze it anymore with my fingers, I'm going to switch to my pliers and squeeze it together. Just like that. There we go. So then I'm going to go down here to the tip. Make sure that these aren't crossing over, which they are trying to do. Stop that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Stay side by side, please. Side by side. Okay, so then what I'm going to do is take my round nose pliers right here down at the tip, and I'm going to twist, put a little twist in it. So right here at the tip, I'm grabbing the tip of my wire with the tip of my pliers right there at the folded part. I'm just going to give it a little turn, just like that. So now that's what I have. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire back to the hilt. I'm going to give myself about 3/8 to 1/2 an inch from the folded tip. And then I'm going to fold the tip and the long wire together. Just fold them together. Let me see if I can get a good view of that. Just no, get that out of the way. Just trying to focus on everything and focusing on nothing. Yeah. So I'm going to fold these together. Just like so. And so there is my hook. So the next thing I'm going to do is go down here to the long wire. And right here where I put this little bend in, focused again, why? Right here where I put this little bend in, oh my gosh, what is happening? Okay, my long wire, right here where I have the little bend, I'm going to bend the long wire towards the short wire, just like that. So here's my short wire, and I just bent my long wire over it. So that's what I have. Yes, stay over there. And now I'm going to grab my round nose pliers right here at the tip. I'm going to grab the fold where I folded the long wire, and I'm going to wrap that wire around my pliers to make a loop. So I'm just wrapping that around. Like so. So I have a lip to loop there. So then I'm going to switch to my square pliers. And I'm going to wrap the wire around itself, just like I did with my other spirals, if I can get a good grip, just like it does not want to do it. So let's hold it this way. And I'm going to wrap that around. And I want to make another open spiral so it echoes the other spirals. Now I'm going to use my fingers, wrap that around. And switch to whatever hand works best until I have the spiral in the size that I want. Just keep wrapping. Hope you can see my fingers aren't blocking everything out. And just decide how big you want your spiral to be. Doesn't have to be super huge. Just something that kind of echoes our other spirals. It's just a little cute extra. There we go. Get around there. Nice. So now I have a little spiral on top of my hook. Neat, huh? So now I need to wrap that closed. So I'm going to hold on to my spiral and bring the tail of my wire right here between the hook, the folded part of the hook and my pliers. So I need to hold on to my spiral so it doesn't shift and wrap that around. There we go. Just need to feed that in between my pliers and the hook. There. And you can wrap that as many times as you want. It needs one complete, at least one complete wrap around. If you want more wraps, you can do more wraps if you want. It just depends on what you're after. I think I'm going to give it one more half a turn around. And then I'm going to stop. And what I want to do is cut this off so that the tip, that sharp tip, will be between the hook and the rest of the wire instead of out here where it could catch on something. Just a nice little trick. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to cut that off. I like to bend it in so that it's already going in the direction that I'm going to have to push down. Grab my cutters and cut that as close as I can get. There we go. And then push down that little tip. Right there under the hook. Yay. There we go. Nice. Isn't that cute? And then I like to put a little bit of a curve in it right here above my little wrap. I like to give it a little bit of a curve back. So I'm grabbing it with my square pliers. I'm holding onto the little spiral in the wrap, and I'm going to give it a bend back just to give it a little bit of a curve. I think that looks so graceful. Then I'm going to grab my round pliers again and squeeze that little tip down there until it touches or gets as close as I can get to my spiral or my coil. Squeeze it. There. Isn't that pretty? Now I need to make a loop down here to connect it to the rest of my bracelet. So I'm going to bend my wire back, hold on to my little spiral so it doesn't shift, put a bend in my wire, cut it down to about 1/2 inch like we've been doing all along for our loops. Get rid of that excess. Grab my round nose pliers, slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way from the tip of my pliers. Make sure nothing's sticking out the back there, and make my loop. There we go. But I think I want it a little further down, so I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit of that off so that I can rewind it. Get rid of that tip. And there we go. There we go. There's my little hook. Isn't that neat? So now I just need to attach it to my bracelet. So I'm going to open it up just like I opened all of the other links. Just going to open it to the side. Boom. Slide it on my spiral link. Close it up. Just twist it closed. Boop. And I have a bracelet. Isn't that cute? Told you it was going to be simple. New beginnings. Oh, I love it. Let me put it on. Let me put it on. Ta-da! There it is. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. And there's our little clasp that echoes the rest of the bracelet. New beginnings. Ah, this is great. So pretty. Okay, so everybody, that's our bracelet. Oh, I really, really, really like this. So that's our bracelet. That's our piece for today. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I'm going to enjoy wearing them, like I always enjoy wearing the things that I make. And again, if you get kits, you will get 3 of these coin-shaped beads. You'll get 20 gauge wire and you'll get some jump rings, and you too can make this beautiful bracelet. I love this. As you can probably tell. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you'll let me know one way or the other. I really do love to hear from you and get your feedback, good, bad, indifferent, hopefully not indifferent. But I hope that you'll let me know if there's anything that I can improve. I think the camera worked pretty well. A couple of times I looked up and it was not focused, and I think I took care of that. But if you want to get in contact with me, just email me at jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Or you can send pictures and comments to the DeKalb County Library Facebook page, and that is facebook.com/DeKalb Library. That's DEKALB Library, or you can just leave just comments on the DeKalb County Library YouTube page, which is youtube.com/DeKalb County Public Library. You have to write out the whole thing. That's DeKalbCountyPublic. I lost track of my spelling for a second there. But I hope to hear from you. And until I do, I hope you're having a great winter so far. Nice and cold outside, but it's blue skied and sunny here in Georgia. So that's nice. But we're going to do some other things that are very cheerful. I'm hoping to put together some really colorful pieces that if you are someplace where you're in the doldrums and it's gray and it's cold and it's boring, that we will be able to make you a little happier. But until next time, I hope you have a great week and a great weekend. And I'll see you later. Bye-bye.